Hi there, and welcome back to another book review. Today, I'm talking about Green Dot by Madeleine Gray. If you're thinking about checking out Green Dot for yourself, you don't have to worry about any spoilers in this video. The first parts of my videos are always spoiler-free, so you can see if the book is your cup of tea. After a quick summary and basic review, I'll give a clear spoiler warning before going into my deep dive of my thoughts and opinions on this book. Real quick, these are some content warnings for Green Dot. Our main character in Green Dot is Hera, an extreme anti-capitalist who has just finished a string of advanced degrees and is now staring down the rest of her working life. Though she hates the idea with a passion, she ends up applying for a comment moderator job and starts working at a media company. Shortly after starting this role, Hera falls in love with one of the journalists. The rest of the novel goes on to explore how love can lead you to change and sacrifice even when it may not be what's best for you. This is a book all about growing up, sexuality, and balancing our relationships with our value of ourselves. I liked Green Dot because the writing is very fluid and our main character Hera has a unique voice. Before I give you my rating for Green Dot, let's do a quick run through of my rating system. 1 star means that I could not finish the book. 2 stars means that I struggled to finish it, but I did. 3 stars means that I enjoyed it, it was okay. 4 stars means I really liked it and I would recommend it to a friend. And 5 stars, which is my highest honor, means I would read the book again. I gave Green Dot a 4-star rating because I liked the book and I would recommend it to a friend, but I probably wouldn't read it again. I thought it was very well written, and my main complaint about the book was the subject matter that, while it may have been realistic, was ultimately kind of depressing. If you read Green Dot and you enjoyed it, you may also enjoy Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austen. This is another book with a queer woman as the main character, and if you want to learn what it's about, you can check out my review. Come and Get It by Kiley Reid is the story of a professor who falls in love with a student, and it's another book that explores not so appropriate relationships. And The Half Moon by Beth Keane. This is another book that focuses in on the relationship between 2 characters, has themes of adultery, and shows some characters persevering in the face of hardship. This is a great book for anyone who found out that their first dream wasn't necessarily the best dream for them. We are now entering the spoiler-filled part of this video, so if Green Dot sounds like your cup of tea, now is a great time to click away, go read it, and then come back so you can engage with my thoughts and opinions. If you like the sound of this book but you don't want to read it yourself, stick around and I will give you the full rundown. Hera Stephan is a quirky and insistent anti-capitalist who spends most of her time after high school pursuing advanced degrees so she can avoid entering the workforce. She pursues degree after degree and then finally ends up living with her dad after graduation, realizing that she needs to get a job. Though it physically pains her to do so, she applies for a comment moderator job, and to her shock, she actually receives an offer. During her first day on the job, she finds out that the comment moderators and the journalists are separated pretty severely, with a very clear idea in the office being that the journalists matter and their work has a purpose, and the comment moderators are not to interfere with them in any way. Hera meets Allison, her stern and kind of weird boss, and Mei Ling, a friend who has the same dry sense of humor. Hera pushes through her new, horrible office job, commenting on the monotony of it all. The only thing that makes it even slightly tolerable is the fact that she can complain to her friends Soph and Sarah in the off hours. Work starts to get a little more exciting when Hera runs into a journalist in the elevator one day and boldly asks him who in the office he hates. At first, he doesn't answer her, but then later he ends up engaging by telling her that Doug is the person he hates. This gets the ball rolling on their relationship, and the two of them begin to chat in the internal IM. One day, after all of the coworkers go out together, Hera and this journalist named Arthur go out for Chinese, just the two of them, and after the meal, they go their separate ways, though Hera swears there is some sort of sexual tension there. A few weeks later, after the same kind of coworker event situation, Hera goes out on a limb and asks Arthur to come back to her place. He agrees, and the two of them are intimate, and then immediately after, Arthur gets a phone call, and Hera realizes that this phone call is from his wife. Hera, surprisingly, isn't as concerned by this turn of events as you may expect, and instead just asks Arthur if he's going to be serious about her and if he plans to leave his wife. Though Arthur does promise Hera that he's going to leave his wife, throughout the book he continues to give her reasons why he just can't do it right at this moment. Hera continues to go along with this and believe him for a while. She gives up on basically all of her social obligations, pretty much ignoring her friends and declining to hang out with her dad so she can instead be ready anytime Arthur may be able to see her. Hera is hanging out with her dad one night when Arthur texts and says that he can meet her at the park, and so she ditches her dad, who is kind of sad about it, and she goes to the park and waits and waits and waits for Arthur, who never arrives. It's this event that ultimately convinces Hera that this situation is not good for her and she needs to leave until Arthur is serious about leaving his wife. So at this point in the book, she decides she's gonna get a job in the UK, and she moves from Australia to the UK where she starts a remote position. Hera tells her friends about Arthur's unfortunate position, and her friends commiserate with her until it becomes clear that she's not going to stop interacting with him, and the longer the two of them continue to see each other, the more uncomfortable her friends become. When Hera announces that she is moving to the UK, Arthur begs her not to go, but Hera ignores him and goes anyway. She hates every single minute of living in the UK because she is away from her friends and away from her family and feels really isolated. And that's when COVID hits, which ramps all of those things up 100%, as her roommate moves out to go back to her parents, and the lockdowns mean Hera is by herself almost all of the time. While in the UK, Arthur messages Hera on her birthday, and this opens the door for them to start talking again. Right before Hera finally decides she's gonna return to Australia, Arthur drops a bombshell, and that is that his wife is pregnant. Despite this being yet another turn of events that a normal character might take as a sign that it's time to leave this relationship with Arthur behind, Hera continues forward, and the two of them even start to have conversations about how she could be a stepmother to this baby. Hera returns back to Australia, and she and Arthur reconnect. After Arthur's wife has the baby, Hera gives him an ultimatum. He has to leave his wife by the end of the year. On New Year's Eve, Hera prepares a cake and plans to celebrate Arthur telling his wife when he shows up at her door and it's clear that he couldn't tell her. Hera pushes the issue, saying that he doesn't have a choice in the matter, and he does go and talk to his wife about it. Hera waits with bated breath for him to return to her and tell her that everything can proceed forward as they planned, but ultimately when he does come back, he tells her that he admitted cheating to his wife asked him to stay, and that's what he plans to do. Hera is crushed when she realizes she's not the special mistress who actually makes it out with the married man, but instead one of the many who don't get him to leave his wife in the end. She breaks it off permanently with Arthur after this, and her friends are very happy to hear it. Hera returns to her social life and struggles to cope with the trauma that she's experienced from this years-long relationship with a married guy. At the end of the book, Hera is approached by an adorable little girl, and when she reaches down to interact with her and then looks for her parents, she realizes that this is Arthur's daughter. During this interaction, Arthur kind of asks if they can get back together again. Hera is so shocked by this that she finally snaps and lays into him, realizing and explaining that he never really cared how she felt and had just really been using her the whole time. He has this veneer of being a perfect, honest man and always told Hera that he was just trying to be honest and tell the truth. And this is kind of when it really sinks in for Hera that that's simply not true. Okay, so now that you know the gist of everything that happens in Green Dot, I want to dive into some of my thoughts and opinions on this book. The first thing that you need to know about this one is that it is not a feel-good book at all. If you're looking for a fun, lighthearted read, Green Dot is not the one for you. I think it's very by design in this book that the first real moment of happiness Hera experiences immediately after inviting Arthur back to her house is squashed by the call from his wife, and the book pretty much follows that trajectory from there. Arthur leaving immediately after the two of them have been intimate together is a pattern that repeats over and over throughout the book. What would have been most satisfying would have been for Hera to hear the phone call from his wife and immediately tell him off, and then maybe even go tell the wife about what he did. But unfortunately, Green Dot is not about what is most satisfying. It instead paints a more realistic picture of what people are like and how they can choose the wrong thing over and over even when it is perfectly clear that it is not what's best for them. I am incredibly torn about this aspect of the book because I thought it was so frustrating, but I also think that that's kind of the point. I did like the main character in this one, and there are a couple of reasons for that. The first being that Hera is just pretty funny, and in her interactions between her and her friends, her and her dad, and even her and Arthur. Speaking of Hera's dad, he was one of my favorite characters in this book. There was something incredibly satisfying about how steady and stable and supportive he was, even as he watched Hera make a lot of bad decisions. After the family dog dies, for example, Hera chooses not to go grieve with her dad and instead calls Arthur and waits for him to come comfort her. Hera's friends are another strong point in this book. They very easily could have been used as a point of drama or a way to introduce more conflict when they realize she's having an affair with a married man, but instead we get to see both the good and bad in people and how her friends are endlessly supportive until she eventually comes through on the other side. I think the book really does something here by giving Hera an amazing support system with her dad and her friends and showing how she chooses not to rely on it anyway. I also really appreciate the title and cover of this book. This is not something that I talk about a lot, but sometimes covers really do just jump out at me, and I think this is one of the more interesting ones that I've seen. The title Green Dot is a reference to how Arthur's little green dot shows up on Instagram when he's online, and Hera spends a lot of time staring at it. I also think this is kind of an allusion to The Great Gatsby, where Jay Gatsby spends a lot of his time staring at the green light across the way that represents him lusting or wanting Daisy Buchanan. Overall, I thought Green Dot was interesting and depressing. As always, you can follow me on Goodreads or Instagram to see more about what I'm reading now and what I plan to read next. If you're interested in any of the books I mentioned in this video, you can find links to them in the description. Thanks for watching.